Hades 2 could have had a better story. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy Hades 2. I like the gameplay, the visuals, the voice acting, and even all the new boons. But the ending of the story and the story itself has left me feeling a little cold. I think it's easier to start from the ending and then we'll go back towards it. So what happens in the ending? Spoilers. Well, along the way, Melinoë acquires the means to communicate with Zagreus in the past through the Mirror of Night. She tells him, please go kill Chronos in your time. Zag goes, okay sure, but instead, because he's a good boy, he goes and brings Chronos back to the family. And they create an alternate timeline where Chronos lived with Hades, helped raise Melinoë, and was overall just a chill dude. In the future, the current Chronos is suddenly inundated with these memories of a happy life, and that causes a great shift in his personality, because all he ever wanted was a family. And now he remembers having a family, he feels guilty. Melinoë still wants to end him. Zagreus gets free and says, Melinoë no, he's family, and they all forgive each other and hug. And Melinoë now repeats the run by going back to defeat the possibilities of evil Chronos with her new slay grandfather by her side. I know it's a lot. There's a post-epilogue with the 3 fates as well, but we'll get to that in a bit. So let's do a Chronos and rewind time now. So I'm going to speak about the characters of the game because I think they all really inform the story and how it works. And first we're gonna start with the love interests are good. They're pretty. But are they the level of Hades 1 characters? Do you connect with them the same way that you did with the characters in Hades 1? Honestly, no. Because the characters kind of feel very isolated from the rest of the game. You don't really see them very much and not often in a positive light. What do I mean? So in Hades 1 you had Meg. She would be the first boss you fought in your journey to the surface, and sometimes you would fight her sister, sometimes you would fight her and another sister, sometimes you would fight all 3. So you would always meet her in your runs. You also had Thanatos, who could show up in a fight when you were low and fight alongside you in the game. And oh, that bell toll. Whenever I heard it, I would just instantly perk up and think about seeing Than and being competitive and fighting alongside him. It was great. And of course, you had some false love interests that looked like they were going to be your love interest but just turned out to be your friends in the end. Zag got friend-zoned. So, Dusa would always be around the house. She was little Gorgon head, and she had a bit of a complex about her role as a servant. Achilles, who is your mentor, would always be there to give you an encouraging word. And heck, let's throw in Hypnos, because a lot of people really liked Hypnos. Every time you died, he was mostly there to greet you and give some commentary about the way you died. And it was kind of fun to die, even though he was meant to be an annoying character. It was nice that he always greeted Zagreus and that he almost always had something to say about how you went. And then we come to Hades 2. Now, don't get me wrong, the premise obviously informs the character. They're in a war, so of course there's less time to be jokey and to have fun. But you would think that that would mean the characters would cooperate more, right? But they're all kind of antagonistic towards Melinoë. I mean, let's take Nemesis. Nemesis checks all the muscle mommy boxes, but she's kind of against you at the start. She wants to be the one to end Chronos, so naturally you become her rival. And when you encounter her, she would sometimes ask you to deal damage to her to prove how tough you are, or deal damage to you, or very rarely in my experience she'd fight alongside you like Than did. But it never seems to be a friendly competition with her, because she's obviously your little rival. She's never really happy about it, she's disappointed when she loses, and then she rushes off into one of the open doors, which means instead of relaxing and enjoying the moment you're done with a fight and you got your reward, you need to mad scramble to get to the door you want before her. And she does grow and acknowledge your strength, but she's still fairly competitive. and she still steals your doors. And honestly, her placement in the glade is kind of out of the way of everyone else, on purpose of course, because she's a bit of a lone wolf, but never really found myself wanting to go talk to her like I did with Fan. She just sort of stood there and I would walk past and forget she was there. Okay, what about Ares? She's the opposite of Nemesis. She's fun, she's sassy, she fights you just like Meg did. Well, look, if she's your favorite, I won't judge. But somewhere in there, you've got a thing for humiliation. Because she's never really nice. There are moments where she's sort of nice, but she snaps back into her whole "I want to disrupt the natural order of things. Nobody likes me, but I'm fine with that because I'm a chaotic ball of strife." And it all just feels like a cry for attention. Like when we fought Meg, it wasn't because she was actively wanting to mess with us. There might have been some antagonism because she was hurt that Zag was leaving so suddenly, but it was also her job. It was her job to literally stop us from escaping hell. But Ares, she's just doing what she wants just cause. I know that she's strife, but couldn't it be that Hecate wanted her to train us to the surface? So she's not just getting in our way for absolutely no reason? And her storyline never really softens her. I mean, I don't need her to become a whole new person. I just needed her to care about Mel and the rest. Because in a story that's supposed to be about family, Ares never does anything with family. And she should, because she's an outcast like Chronos was. She talks about how she's different from the rest and she never got along with the rest. She didn't need to join the family in the end, but maybe she could have come to terms with Melinoë being on her side and that she's all the family she needs or that she wants. And she's just doing what she does to continue to train us to get stronger like Hecate wanted, instead of just being there for no reason and disrupting our efforts in a literal war. Now, Morose. I really wanted to like Morose. He's really pretty. I think he's a good character and he has a great plot about being caught between being bound by fate and his own decision. But nothing really happens with him. He's just there, standing by the prophecies. He supposedly defies fate to love Melinoë, which is really sweet, and I instantly perked up the first time he appeared when she died and they cemented their relationship. It was really cute, and it reminded me a lot of Fan joining in on the battle and just having a bit of banter with Zag. But as far as I know, he never does that again. He just keeps standing there in that one spot for the rest of the game. Achilles at least moves every so often to stand with Patrolochus in Elysium, and it was really cute to see them there. And there's a point about that as well, but I'll get back to it in a bit because we need to move on to the best boy, Icarus. Now, I am hopelessly biased towards Icarus, but I think there's a reason for that. I think he's actually the best character in the entire game.
Hooray!
He's the only one that I really like. He helps you in battle, he's super friendly, he gives you a boon, he has a whole story tied into the hammers and wanting to feel free and regretting his past actions of being too hasty. And at the end of it, you do give him some temporary relief by giving him back the ability to touch stuff and feel the wind and all again. But why only briefly? And I don't see the option to do it again. I might be missing it. And why does it have to be used sparingly? I mean, I just want my boy to fly freely and feel the breeze all the time. Why can't we make him the god of bombs or something? Make him Hephaestus' apprentice. Give him back a bit of life. Give my boy a bit more. He is the sunshine in this game, and I really love him, and he can do no wrong. Please, Supergiant, give him something more than just a temporary feeling of relief. Okay, and we have Dora. She's nice too. She's on our side. But in a game where so many characters are kind of sassy or strict or sharp, Sometimes it's a bit grating to hear her sass back, and we never really get to the end of her problems, I think. Maybe I haven't played far enough, but spoiler alert, she's revealed to be Pandora, who unleashed all ill fate upon mankind. She was also married to Prometheus's brother at one point. So you think with all of these connections, she would have some bigger realization, or maybe she would speak to Prometheus at the end and reconcile and realize that, she's living a new life, kind of like how Dusa realized that a position as head house servant was her calling, but she learned to take breaks along the way. I was really waiting for Dora to have this big realization that, yes, I did all of this, yes, the gods are petty, but I've got a new lease on life. Maybe I want to reconcile with Prometheus and talk to him. And that just never happens. She gets her memory back, but she kind of just shrugs it off, which makes sense for her character, but it's kind of, is that it? Maybe if I play more, I'll see more about it, but it feels like it just got dropped, and she never goes through that kind of growth. And that's a problem with the main game. My god, this video is long. Okay, so in Hades 1, Zag could also go about solving the problems of the people around him. For example, he could reunite Patroclus and Achilles after their misunderstanding. He could help Orpheus reconcile with Eurydice, loosen the punishment of Sisyphus, and annoy Theseus and Asterius along the way. You kind of saw these characters that helped you out and that you really liked. Or in the case of Theseus and Asterius, they annoyed you, but they were just so goddamn funny you enjoyed them. And you saw them faced with the consequences of their circumstances, whether good or bad, having grown from their past mistakes. And you would go out of your way to help them and get Hades to soften the punishment on them. Sisyphus is a great example. You would think that maybe he's trying to trick you, knowing that he's past, knowing he was an arrogant king. But seeing him grow from that and learn to just be a chill dude, happy with his boulder, and you got to make the punishment less intense on him, that was great. You got to see him get some relief, and you became really good friends in the endgame. But in Hades 2, I know I haven't gotten that far. I'm gonna keep saying this because I keep hoping out that something along the line changes. But you could do something similar. So we talked about Icarus and Dora and how you sort of restored their memories or their sensations temporarily. So we're gonna move on to Echo. You can start to cure her Echo, and she starts to speak normally. But then, towards the end, she says she doesn't want to be cured because it helps her listen to people better in the morning fields, and she can reflect their thoughts, and that's how she hears people. But you can do that with a proper voice. You can still do the whole echo thing. You just can have moments where you choose to speak normally. Like, let us help you. You can still help other people, and it's great that you do. But you can still echo back at us every so often with your normal voice. Just say like, oh, Echo, I'm kidding, here's a boon. It'd be so cool. And it's fine if they didn't have more lines recorded. They could just say like, oh, she prefers to still do the echo thing, and that would have been fine. And Heracles, nothing to solve really. He's got a grudge against the gods. He helps you, which is cool. Then he fights you later on, which, cool boss fight, but I thought you were on our side. And his story never really resolved. He never comes to the crossroads. Maybe it does. Again, if you've gotten far enough, please correct me in the comments. But Heracles is there. Prometheus, who seems to actually have a point about the age of man and the gods being petty dictators. I have scoured for content where he says anything post-game about Chronos or his goals or anything, where he sort of, in the post-game, he sort of gets what he wants. The three fates sort of retire, and he gets to do, he gets this age where man is in charge of themselves. But as far as I know, he never says anything about it. And Dora, being his sister-in-law, he has a few lines about her. Never meets her, never talks to her. What happened to his brother? Is he still around? He's just there. He's just continuously fighting us. And out of all the enemies we have, Prometheus feels like the one who least deserves to be in the position he's in, because he helped mankind and he was punished for it for really no good reason, and he's just being doomed to fight in this eternal cycle again. Moving on, Odysseus, our mentor. At some point, you can have him talk to all his past enemies, which is kind of cool. He sort of has a reconciliation with Circe, then he goes off to find his wife and kids, and then he comes back and it's all job done. Why couldn't we have seen his wife and kids? Maybe in the morning fields, maybe they're living their best life out there with where Echo is. Kind of like how Eurydice was living her life without Orpheus. And then when they're back together, we could have seen them like out there with their family. And it would have just added so much more punch to see them all happy together, or to see them all slowly learning to co-parent their kid or something. But that never happens, it all happens off screen. Now, another shade is Narcissus. He had a really promising storyline. I like him discovering that he can just be friends with someone, he can just be friends with Melinoë, and we don't ever cure him of his affliction, which is fine, he seems quite content with it. But it's sad that after reconciling with Echo, you just never see them together. You never have her come up and take a break with him and have them talk and just be friends. It doesn't look like he really learned to be friends with anyone after his encounter with Melinoë. And we have to talk about Arachne. Now, Arachne has this scene where after talking to Athena, we can have them both meet. And Arachne basically gives Athena the middle finger and says, no, I don't want you to kill me. I don't want to apologize for you being petty, that I was a better weaver than you. And yes, she was being arrogant, but at the same time, Athena went way too far, cursing her to be basically an immortal spider for the rest of her life, just because she was a better weaver and that she was a little bit arrogant. And it's cool that they don't let her apologize for that, but also, why can't we still help her out? I mean, in the previous game, we bypassed Hades' punishments to make circumstances better for everyone else. Why can't we bypass Athena or convince Athena to let this one go and let us handle the consequences? And yes, the gods are petty, they're always petty, but in a game where growth and redemption are supposed to be the main themes, it's really odd that they don't actually grow, that nobody actually grows. And that brings me to my next point. No one really grows in this game. Like in the last game, the gods were pretty selfish beings, except best girl Artemis, but they all did start working together and finding the value in family again, especially when they met the sunshine-friendly ball that is Zagreus. Demeter even closed one eye to Zeus yanking her daughter to give away as a bride to a luckily very nice Hades. And because the squabbles of gods do take on epic proportions, they are going to be different from the squabbles we have in our everyday family. The family fight is like an earthquake compared to the normal. But that is their kind of fight. That's their proportion of fight. So them reconciling even after this big huge war isn't a strange thing. And in Hades 1, they were willing to put aside their squabbles to help out Zagreus with the security of the Underworld and be a family and sit and feast and talk. That never happens here. Athena, for example, never realizes it was too far to curse Arachne to such a fate. Nemesis never undoes any of her curses, even after the retribution has been properly served. If anything, she's made them all worse. They've not learned. The gods apparently reconcile with Chronos, but it's kind of jarring, and they're all still really wary, as they should be, when the enemy just reneges on all that they've been doing. And poor Dionysus. I was so sure he would have a moment of realization that partying away the war was just a bad coping mechanism, and he would say that, oh, he missed Zag and he's in a bad place, and he could still party, but maybe he could turn it into a respite for the soldiers fighting the war, for the Shades fighting the war, and he could still help in his own way, and realize that he's still part of this family, he still needs to help out, but he's doing it in a way that maybe the gods won't understand, but Melinoë gets. That never happens. I like the gods. They're fun, they're great, but I don't feel for them the way I did in Hades 1. They never really became the family like they did with Zagreus. They didn't learn from their mistakes. And you know, Melinoë didn't convince them of really anything either. So I know some people are arguing about the whole male versus female protagonist, and oh, of course they had to have the guy save the day. I don't see it that way. I don't see gender. No, but what I see are two protagonists with clashing ideals. And one of them is obviously the moral that fits better the story and the moral that Supergiant wants us to learn. And the other never really grows into that perspective. What do I mean? Now, Melinoë and Zagreus were raised very differently, but also very similarly. Both were born under very strict parental figures, Hades, Hecate. They were given a job that they didn't really want to do, and they were sort of continuously fighting for their goals with the aid of their relatives in the end. And the end game was always to reconcile a family. The difference is, despite all the circumstances and hardships, Zagreus still maintains this very friendly, good boy demeanor. Even when he's escaping to find his mom, he finds time along the way to understand others and help them. And his end goal isn't to hurt his father. I mean, he does obviously, they have an antagonistic relationship. But the whole reason for him escaping from the house was to find his mom. He had no drive to escape prior from that. And along the way, you can sort of see the evolution of his relationship with Hades. It isn't fully resolved when he gets to the end, but it grows. You see Hades starting to understand his son. You see Zag starting to realize how tough it was for his dad with their family and all the troubles that they bring. And Persephone comes in and she helps them reconcile. It's not perfect, but that moment where you get to the final Hades fight and you are ready to do one more tough battle. You're ready to fight all out. You're ready to go against him because he's the enemy. And he just doesn't fight you.
I have done virtually everything within my power to prevent this. All of it. For nothing. The fates were not content to saddle me within the earth. They mock me still.
Maybe they just think you're in the wrong, and that you're an obstinate, overbearing, and miserable excuse for a husband and father. Don't you understand I'm trying to fix the problems you caused, since you're so unwilling to do it yourself?
You're right. I was unwilling. I made my choices in all this. I loved her, yes. I loved her terribly. But now, it seems I'm merely delaying the inevitable. Go then. Go to her. But should harm befall her, I shall bring my worst wrath upon whomever is to blame, including you.
What? You're letting me go just like that? You're just afraid of getting struck down again. You're serious?
Go. Before I reconsider.
And Melinoë is in a war. She has no time to feel sympathy for her enemy. And don't get me wrong, she's still friendly. She still wants to help the people around her. Sometimes she's even quite naive to the ways of the gods, which is really good. I think she should have been naive. I like that she has more shade friends than she does gods. and where she understands the gods weren't always the best to them. But she never really seems to realize how messed up her family is. And I was really waiting for that ball to drop. I was waiting for her to doubt her mission, maybe even doubt if Chronos is the real enemy, or wonder maybe it's better for mankind, and realize that her family is hurting from an age-old wound that never really healed. But she keeps making excuses for them. She keeps thinking that they had some greater reason to do the things that they did when they don't. They were just petty. And I didn't need her to reach that conclusion on her own. Because having Zag around, and having more Zag is always great, having him around as a moral compass would have been perfect. If he could have guided her to reach that conclusion, tell her how bad their family is, but that they are good people at heart, or teach his younger sister to see a possible path to peace instead of destruction. It would have been great, and we could have seen them bond so much more. Melinoë is still her own character. She's tougher, she's stricter than Zagreus, she's lost more. But she could have been the one to learn to find another way to bring Chronos to their side. Heck, maybe even talk to him more, talk to Chronos more, experience flashbacks in the past where Chronos was her grandfather and not her enemy. Instead of having Chronos be the only one to experience that, see Chronos slowly wear down more and more, and realize over time that her grandfather is just hurt that his children cast him out. Instead of it being a throwaway line that Chronos says like, oh, if they had asked nicely, things would have been different. The gods have epic family fights, just like they've always done. But if she could have been the one to help them reconcile, instead of having to reconcile with what Zag had done by himself, I would have liked her a whole lot more. So, all is said and done, the order is resolved, Chronos is on her side. Melinoë doesn't return to her family because she has to keep away the possibilities of Chronos. But also, I think it's clear she doesn't really feel a connection to them. I wonder why. I wonder why they could have talked more. I wonder why she could have talked to Zag more. Okay. In seriousness, it's nice to see her get to know Chronos, but it is very jarring that he shifted so suddenly instead of us seeing this gradual growth over more than one cutscene of him playing hide and seek with her. And spoilers for the true endgame, Melinoë does find the three fates. They say they're retiring, it's in the hands of the humans now. By the way, ask your head mistress why she's weird. Melinoë does so, and bam! Major spoiler. Hecate is Melinoë from another timeline who didn't have anyone to guide her, and when she fought Chronos, she went back in time and ended up now guiding her younger self. Okay? There's time stuff going on, fine. I don't mind that. But here's the scenario where I think it would have worked so much better. So you have Melinoë talking with Zagreus, talking about bringing Chronos onto their side and reconciling. You have her speaking to Chronos over the course of many runs, trying to convince him that there's another way, that we can start over, that we can be a better family and better for the mortals. And Hecate, or old Melinoë, who is still hell-bent on defeating Chronos. She is literally the worst version of Melinoë, who ended up consumed by wrath and revenge, and at the end she's still wishing they could have ended Chronos. So instead of that resolution, have Melinoë on a path learning that there's a chance for peace over destruction. Start to defy the headmistress. When she's talking to Chronos and changing his mind, she's going against everything the headmistress has taught her. Have the headmistress start to become antagonistic. She's still gonna help Melinoë because it's her duty, but she disagrees with everything that Melinoë is starting to do. And when she's captured at the end, spoilers, she gets captured at the end, have Melinoë maybe with Zagreus as a memory or as a shade in that final resolution. Have Hecate be angry. Throw in a boss battle with her if you had the time and resources. Have her go all out. Have her fight against Melinoë and maybe even Chronos, because she's just so angry. She wants to destroy Chronos. She's not listening to any talks of peace. And have her be defeated in the end, because she's the cautionary tale of what blinding hate can do to someone. Is it all justified? Yes. But she didn't learn from it. She didn't learn to get better. Maybe have Chronos go to her after he's learned of the family could have had. This new Chronos, born of memories that never came to be. Have him go to her with his change of heart. Maybe have him erase himself and her from the timeline. A timeline that no longer exists because of what Zag and Melinoë did in the past. Maybe the crossroads now exist in a place in between time because of the magic that was cast there, but not the headmistress. Now, Melinoë has a chance to learn to live with her family still. She can still visit the house of Hades, see her brother's friends, see they're alright because we never got to really see the rest of them. Let her see how to grow and truly use what she's learned to help both the shades and the gods, and help them let go of a time where now it's the mortals' hands to control the future. And she still has to do the crossroads. She still has to fight the possibility of fights before. But the true Chronos, the true headmistress, maybe they're gone for good. Sacrificed with only the echoes of their past in the game. Maybe only Chronos is left and Hecate she's no longer there. She no longer exists. Have him filled with regret because of what he did to a version of his granddaughter. Have him filled with regret because he raised an echo in the past. He learned to love the echo of a granddaughter that isn't around anymore. And now he's helping Mel and the rest of his family out of guilt, the desire to properly get to know his family. And I think that would have been a better story. But hey, making a game is hard. And hindsight is always 2020. This is all just my own opinion on how I think it could have gone. I still really enjoy the game. Please don't send any hate to anyone. Everyone's just trying their best. This was really fun. I had a good time analyzing it. I hope you did too. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Follow for more. I don't know if I'll do this again. Anyway, have a good one. 10 out.